Have you ever noticed how excited you feel the week you get a raise? You open the email, or your manager tells you in that slightly formal tone, your salary is going up. Finally, you feel seen, recognized, relieved. And for a moment, everything feels lighter. You start doing quick math in your head, that extra amount per month, the breathing room. Maybe you can finally relax a little. But then, a few months pass, and somehow your bank account still feels tight. The stress is still there. Maybe it even feels the same. And that's the confusing part, because logically, more money should mean less pressure. So why doesn't it? Today, I want to talk about why financial stress doesn't disappear after a raise, and why the real issue usually has nothing to do with income alone. Most of us grow up believing that money stress is simply a math problem. If income is low and expenses are high, of course you'll feel pressure. So the obvious solution is to increase income, get promoted, switch jobs, upskill, negotiate better. And don't get me wrong, earning more absolutely matters. It gives you options. It expands your margin for error. But here's what no one really explains. Financial stress is rarely just about numbers. It's about structure, it's about habits, it's about identity, and sometimes it's about fear that's been sitting there long before the raise ever came. I've seen this over and over again. Someone earns $40,000 a year and feels stressed. They work hard, they get promoted, now they earn $55,000. For a few weeks, they feel on top of the world. Then, slowly, their expenses adjust. They move to a slightly nicer apartment. They upgrade their phone. They say yes to more dinners. They feel like they've earned it. Nothing extreme, nothing irresponsible, just small upgrades. And suddenly, the margin they gained disappears. Not because they're reckless, but because their lifestyle rose to match their income. This isn't a character flaw. It's human psychology. There's a concept called hedonic adaptation. It basically means we get used to improvements faster than we expect. The new salary becomes normal. The upgraded lifestyle becomes baseline. What once felt like a luxury now feels standard. And once something feels standard, losing it feels like a threat. So instead of feeling safer, we feel like we have more to protect. That's one reason the stress stays. But there's something deeper going on too. Let's imagine two people who both receive a raise of the same amount. One of them has an emergency fund. Their expenses are structured. They know exactly what they need each month. The raise simply increases their savings rate. The other person has no savings. Their expenses are loosely tracked. They have debt hanging in the background. The raise just increases cash flow, but not clarity. Who do you think feels calmer? The difference isn't income, it's financial structure. Structure creates psychological safety, not income alone. If you don't have a system for your money, more money just moves through a messy system faster. It's like pouring more water into a bucket with small holes in it. You might fill it quicker, but the leaks are still there. And sometimes the leaks aren't even obvious. They show up as convenient spending because you're tired from work. They show up as saying yes to things because you don't want to feel left out. They show up as ordering food instead of cooking because your schedule is exhausting. Again, none of this is dramatic. It's normal adult life. But when spending increases in subtle ways, your nervous system doesn't register the raise as relief. It registers it as maintenance. You're still running. There's also something else we don't talk about enough. Financial stress is often future-based. Even if you're okay today, you might still worry about tomorrow. Retirement, job stability, health costs, family responsibilities. What if something happens? A raise improves your present situation, but if your fear lives in the future, your brain doesn't relax. You might earn more, but if you still feel one unexpected bill away from panic, the underlying anxiety stays intact. And here's the tricky part. Sometimes earning more actually increases pressure. When your income rises, expectations often rise with it, from others and from yourself. Maybe your family assumes you can contribute more. Maybe your partner assumes it's time for a bigger place. Maybe you assume you should be investing aggressively now or that you should finally have it together. Suddenly, the raise isn't relief, it's responsibility, and responsibility without structure feels heavy. I think a lot of financial stress comes from the gap between income and identity. If you still see yourself as someone who is bad with money, or always behind, or trying to catch up, a raise won't rewrite that story automatically. Your bank account can change faster than your self-image, and until your self-image shifts, you'll behave in ways that reinforce the old pattern. That might mean avoiding looking at your statements, or telling yourself you'll organize everything next month, or spending to feel temporarily in control. We don't talk about this enough, but money behavior is emotional behavior. If you feel insecure, you might spend to signal stability. If you feel deprived, you might spend to reward yourself. If you feel overwhelmed, you might avoid planning altogether. A raise doesn't erase those patterns, it just gives them more room to operate. This is why some people earn six figures and still feel anxious, and others earn much less but sleep peacefully. It's not about who has more, it's about who feels in control. Control doesn't mean perfection, it means awareness. If you've ever gotten a raise and thought, "Why doesn't this feel like enough?" You're not broken, you're experiencing something deeply human. Money reduces certain types of stress, but it doesn't automatically create clarity, discipline, or emotional security. Those are built intentionally. And this is where the shift begins. Before we go deeper, if this conversation feels familiar, don't forget to subscribe, follow, and comment. John Invests is about understanding money in a calm, realistic way. No pressure, just clarity. Now, let's talk about the turning point. The moment financial stress starts to shrink isn't when your salary increases, it's when your margin increases. Margin is the gap between what you earn and what you need to survive, but it's also the gap between your current lifestyle and your ego. When you earn more and immediately expand your lifestyle to match it, you stay on the same treadmill, different speed, same effort. But when you earn more and hold your lifestyle steady, even temporarily, something powerful happens. You create breathing room. That breathing room can go towards an emergency fund, paying down debt, investing, or simply sitting untouched in your account as proof that you're not fragile. That proof changes your nervous system. When you know you can survive 3 months without income, you walk differently, you negotiate differently, you sleep differently. That's when stress begins to loosen. It's not flashy, it's not dramatic, but it's stabilizing. Another shift happens when you stop tying every raise to a reward. We've been conditioned to celebrate income growth with lifestyle upgrades, new car, better apartment, more subscriptions, better wardrobe. And celebrating is fine, but if every increase in income immediately increases fixed expenses, you've traded flexibility for appearance. And flexibility is what actually reduces stress. Let's say you get a $500 per month raise. If $400 of it disappears into higher rent and new commitments, your life might look better, but your freedom didn't grow much. If you keep your expenses stable and redirect that $500 towards savings or investments, your future options expand quietly. Options reduce anxiety more than aesthetics. You don't need to live like a minimalist monk, that's not realistic, but delaying upgrades slightly can change your trajectory in ways that compound. Compound interest is often explained in terms of investing, but it applies to behavior too. Small increases in savings rate, small reductions in debt, small improvements in financial clarity. Over 5 years, those small shifts create stability, and stability feels better than a temporary lifestyle glow. There's also the importance of defining what enough is. If your definition of enough keeps moving, your stress will keep moving with it. At $50,000, you might think, if I could just make $70,000, I'd relax. At $70,000, you might think, once I hit 6 figures, I'll feel secure. Then, at 6 figures, you compare yourself to people earning more. Without a personal definition of enough, you're chasing a horizon, and horizons never reached. A raise is powerful when it moves you closer to your own definition of stability, not someone else's version of success. So, how do you actually apply this? First, when you receive a raise, pause before adjusting anything. Give it a few months. Let the new income settle. Notice how your spending naturally shifts. Second, decide intentionally what percentage of that raise is for lifestyle and what percentage is for margin. Even a simple split can change everything. Maybe 30% goes to upgrades. The rest strengthens your foundation. Third, build visible proof of progress. Watching an emergency fund grow or seeing debt shrink creates psychological reinforcement. That reinforcement reduces stress because it shows momentum. Fourth, look at your fixed expenses honestly. Rent, car payments, subscriptions. Fixed costs are what trap people after raises. If most of your income is locked into fixed commitments, flexibility disappears. And finally, pay attention to your internal story. If you constantly feel behind, ask yourself, compared to who? If you feel like you should be further ahead, based on what timeline? Sometimes the stress isn't financial, it's social. When you detach your identity from constant comparison, your raises feel like growth instead of competition. Financial calm doesn't come from a number. It comes from a structure that supports your life. It comes from knowing that if something unexpected happens, you won't collapse. It comes from understanding your habits instead of being surprised by them. And it comes from choosing stability over appearance more often than not. You deserve to enjoy the progress you make. A raise is something to be proud of. It reflects effort, skill, persistence. But don't expect it to fix patterns it didn't create. Income is a tool. Structure is the system. Psychology is the driver. When those three align, stress fades naturally. Not overnight, not perfectly, but steadily. If you're watching this and you've felt confused after earning more but not feeling better, you're not alone. That gap is where most adults quietly live. The good news is, it's adjustable. You don't need a dramatic reset. You don't need to double your income tomorrow. You just need awareness and small, consistent shifts toward margin and clarity. Over time, that's what changes how money feels. And how money feels often matters more than how much you have. If you made it to the end, I appreciate you, truly. Conversations like this are why John Invests exists. If this helped you see your situation differently, don't forget to subscribe, follow, and comment. Tell me what topic you want John Invests to explore next. I read the comments, and your questions shape these discussions. Until next time, remember this: progress beats perfection, and calm beats chaos every single time.